Good afternoon. Here we go. Before you have a document entitled Greeter Guidelines, and I've taught this message to greeters through the years, but it hit me really quite a short time after I had begun teaching it to greeters that it really needs to be taught to everybody because it's about hospitality, and everybody in the church is a greeter, whether you're an official greeter or not. And so we all need some greeter training. We all need to know the posture that we want to have, the attitude that we want to take, and what we're doing and why we're doing it as a church as it connects to our mission to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. So let's take a look. The big point is that company's coming, and we want to make sure that we are really creating a wow experience for our guests. And the great benefit of this is that the guest not only experiences a wow experience, but it trickles over, and our membership experience a wow experience too. And everything from there builds, and we just have a great church. And oftentimes, if we're not treating the guest well, then that also trickles over into not treating the membership well either. So we want to wow folks. The quote there from Thomas Long, to greet them with generosity and welcome in the name of Christ, to make a place for them in God's house, is not just friendliness. It is a saving grace. You are showing the hospitality of God. This is important. We are not simply creating a welcoming environment. We are not simply being nice to people, but this is a saving grace. We are really representing God, and we are showing the hospitality of God to believers and then oftentimes to unbelievers as well. And our hospitality, the level of our hospitality can play into whether or not that person can come to Christ. And so it's very important. I think a lot of times we think, well, if they just didn't like us or if they don't stick with us, the next church will get them, or the next one and the next one. And the truth is that this may be the only church experience they ever try. And so we need to make sure that we are really showing the hospitality of God, that we're providing a quality experience every single time. And that's why we want to put systems in place so that it is repeatable and that it happens every single time. But we really need your help in delivering within those systems. So let's look at some principles. The first is that guests are God's gift to this church. God is sending these people to us. And that's a gift. And we want to receive that gift, and we want to do our very best with that gift. But we need to see guests not just as guests, but gifts, and gifts from God. If we aren't ready for them, or we won't treat them well, God won't send them. And so if we look and see, well, we don't have that many guests, then we need to look within ourselves and we need to look at our systems and say, well, are we ready for them? We've been talking about this amongst the staff of we don't often see a lot of new believers that come to Christ. We'll have them here and there, but we're not finding 5 new believers every Sunday or 15 new believers every Sunday. And maybe it's because we're not prepared and ready for those new believers to come. And so God's sending them someplace else that is prepared and is ready. Hospitality is a ministry of the church to the community. It's not simply something we do so that our members can have a good experience, but it is a ministry of the community, just like the food pantry, just like the women's shelter, and any of the other ministries that we have. Hospitality is a ministry of the church to the community. We want to remember that this is God's house and this is Jesus' church. We want you to have ownership. And so often we say, that's my church. And that can be a wonderful thing. But it can also be a roadblock and a barrier sometimes to welcoming in new people. And so we want to remember, it's God's house, it's Jesus' church. These guests are gifts from God. And so we want to make sure that we treat them well. We want to greet people with unconditional acceptance and respect. We don't want to give them the once over, the twice over, the up and down. We want to create a culture of grace where anybody could come here and feel welcome. And they are greeted with the love of God. Our goal is to be overly positive, cheerful, and welcoming, but not too much. And so it's difficult finding that middle ground. We want for them to have a great experience. We want to be bubbly, and we want to make sure that they're greeted and they're treated well. But at the same time, we've got to realize that we don't want them running out the door going, those are some strange people, or they're an introvert, and so they just don't really want all of that attention. So it's a matter of finding a middle ground with that. You've got to feel the person out, and we'll talk about that in a moment. We've got to remember that the guest is just dating us. They're not ready to marry us. And so I think oftentimes on the one extreme, a church that's just over the top welcoming, sometimes we can say, oh, you've got to come to my Sunday school class. Oh, you need to do Servant Saturday. We get so excited about the things we're excited about. And so we want them to be as active and as involved as we are on day one. And as I would tell my teenage children, slow it down. Slow it down. Take it easy here. We've got to realize that we're just dating here. It's going to be, there's a dating period, and at some point we might ask them to marry us. We'll work to that. But we want to make sure that we're not over the top with that. If the guest can't say, wow, I'm impressed within the first 10 minutes, we failed. The truth is, folks will decide in the first 10 minutes whether or not they're coming back. And 10 minutes is probably a long time. Let me tell you about when I was a layperson and we moved to Birmingham, Alabama. We went to church, decided we were going to get up and go to church for the first time. It took a few months, I have to say, living there before we got out and ventured out to go to church. Well, we decided to do that. We went to church. Immediately we said, this is not the place for us. We left before the service started. We drove down the road to another church. Now, for us, it was all Methodist. That's just what we were going to do, at least trying out first. So we drove to the next Methodist church, about 10 minutes away. We weren't there at the right time for the services to start because the last church had messed up that pattern. But we got there and we kind of looked around, and just by looking around and whatever experience we might have had in the first few minutes, we said, well, we'll see, but it's the wrong time. Looked and found out, and we went to the third church. And we were able to get the second service at the third church, and at that one, we then decided, that we kind of made a decision, okay, we'll try this one out. And the next week we ended up at a fourth church. But the point was, we knew really in most of those settings whether or not we were going to fit in, and that was going to be a possible church for us within minutes. And so that's why it's so vital that their experience from the parking lot to the greeting time, to just how they feel and how they experience sitting in a pew or a seat is so vital. The sermon can keep them if they've decided this is a good possibility. If they've decided this is a horrible, bad situation that they're not coming back to, Jesus could preach the sermon and it's not going to matter. They're not coming back because they've already decided. They may not be like us and just get up and get out of the building before the service starts. They may say, well, we'll stick this out for an hour, but we're never coming back. But they make that decision and determine that in the first 10 minutes. What do we want guests saying about us to their coworkers on Monday morning? Will they say anything positive? What you do this weekend? Nothing much. Or, you're not going to believe this church we went to the other day. Now, they can follow that with a couple of different statements, can't they? You're not going to believe this church we went to on Sunday. They did this and this and this. It was crazy. Or, wow, we were so impressed. We were so warmly welcomed. Our kids, they love it. They want to go back. They can't. You ought to come with us this Sunday and check this place out. People are so friendly. What do we want them to say to their coworkers on Monday morning? That's got to be in our mind from the moment we show up on Sunday morning. Arrive early before the service starts. So many members trickling in, 2, 3, 5, 8 minutes late. How can you deal with guests when you're late to the service? Get here early, be ready, walk in, energy up, ready to go, ready to engage people. That's important. Give the impression this is a fun place to be. Even if you don't think it is, let's give the impression that it is. We got to have energy. So many services you walk in and they feel great about a half hour into the service. But you walk in and the room is dead. And part of that's because nobody's gotten there yet. And so often a guest, they're going to show up 10 minutes early. And I've been in churches, you get there 10 minutes early, there's 4 people there. And so that's another reason why we need you to get here early. Because the energy in the room, remember, they're going to make their decision in the first 10 minutes they're in the building. That first 10 minutes in the building, they may not even be at the service start yet. And they've already decided, well, there's nobody here. This place is dead. Well, we don't want to be for this. And again, remember, the first church I went to in Birmingham, we left because that was the atmosphere. We immediately knew this isn't for us. It's just not. So we want, again, a lot of positive energy. I've been in churches where there was negativity and people feel that. They don't have to hear it, they can feel it. And the opposite is also true. They can feel energy and positivity, and we're happy to be here, and we're awake, and we're ready to go. And we're expecting God to show up and show off. And here we go. Bring that energy with you. Let them experience the joy that God delivers in your life. Nobody wants to be around miserable people. And miserable church people are even worse. And so they need to be able to just see you bubbling over with the joy that comes from God being in your life. A friendly, simple greeting is good enough. You don't have to be over the top. Welcome. Good morning. A smile. That's all it takes. Welcome. Good morning. Glad you're here. And that may be the only experience you have. It doesn't have to go on and on and on. If they have questions of where to go, do not point. Do not point them in the direction that they need to go. Take them there. Oh, you need to go to the restroom. That's back that way. Oh, the nursery. It's that way, a long, long, long way with a lot of doors and a lot of paths. Good luck. A former pastor at a church I was at said, we give people a compass and say, good luck. No, take them there. Oh, no problem. Restroom? Let me show you how to get there. Take them there. Nursery? No problem. And walk them to that spot. Every Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday. Super Bowl Sunday only comes around once a year. But in the church, we got to realize that every Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday. Even Labor Day weekend, even the Sunday after Easter, even all those Sundays that we kind of slack off. The truth of the matter is that somebody who needs Jesus Christ may be showing up on that day, and that's the only day they're going to show up. And for them, this is life or death Super Bowl Sunday. And, oh, you ought to come back next week when we got it together. It won't be Labor Day weekend next week. No, we got to be on. We got to be there every single week. Answer their questions. Meet them at their level. If they're shy, don't hound them. Be friendly. I had one church I was at, they'd attacked the new people. And it was small enough they knew who the new people were. And I swore they were asking their Social Security number before it was over. Where do you work? Where do you live? How many kids you got? It's just that hounding of question after question after question. Answer their questions. Hold off on so many questions of you questioning them. Match their level of energy. If they're shy, then let that go. If they're energetic and they're engaged, then be energetic and engage. Let them work through the church at their own pace. They may not be ready to give their contact information just yet. They may not be ready to join a Sunday school class or even visit a Sunday school class. Let them go at their pace. Educate them about the connection card. So we talked about that earlier. We've got this new connection card system. Educate them. If you see a guest sitting next to you and they're fumbling around or they don't understand it, or you have the opportunity to know they're a guest before the service starts, educate them about that connection card. We'd love to send you some information about the church. You can complete this card during the worship, place it in the offering basket at the end of the service. Again, we want to eliminate the confusion. They don't know where to put the card. They don't know when the offering is. Fill them in on those things. Tell them they can text welcome to the text number. The text number is on the card. It'll also be on the screens before the service. You say, hey, you don't want to fill all this out, no problem. Just text welcome to that number. And that'll handle all of it. And then, you might throw in, to soften this a little bit, we promise that we're not going to come out to your house and hound you and then kind of laugh, because that's part of their fear in giving contact information, is we're going to show up, knock on the door, push our way in, and sit around and talk for an hour. And they don't want that, most people. And so we want to be able to kind of laugh that off and give them an assurance that we're simply going to send them some information if they'll do that. If there is time, if it's before the service, and you've got a first-time guest or somebody that hadn't been in a long time, if you can find a pastor and introduce them. That'd be pull us and say, hey, I've got a new person. And I'd love to introduce you. Take the pastor and say, this is our pastor, and help engage that. Maybe if you know that you've got a guest in your area, what we're going to be doing is at the end of the service, the pastor is going to try to make it to a specific spot. In here, it'll be out in the lobby, but the goal is for the pastor to get off of the stage and get to that spot as fast as possible. So we're going to ask a lot of you to not interrupt that process. If you'd like to come out to that spot and talk to us, that'd be great. But we want to get to that certain spot because we're going to tell the guest, if you'll come see us, we've got a gift for you. And so you could help us. If you know a guest, say, hey, let me introduce you to my pastor. And you take the pastor there after the not the pastor, but you take the guest with you after the service and help us to make that connection so they can't just make a mad dash for the parking lot with that. The gift, we've taken the cups, and so we're putting in these popcorn bags. And it says, thanks for popping in. We hope you'll pop back real soon. And so we've included some microwave popcorn in there, and it just makes a nice little gift for them. And then we can give that to them if they'll come and greet us after the service. So help us to do that so that we can get that into their hands, and that'll be the first part of that process. I'll talk about the rest of the process in a moment. Let me quickly run over some do's and don'ts. Things not to do and not to say A few of these we've been over. Welcome to our church. We want to try to avoid the word our. Avoid the word our as much as we can. We don't want to set us and them, kind of dynamic in that. And so language is very important. And our church, my church, those are wonderful things to feel, but we don't want to express that with folks. Using the term we, I is more personal. So you can say, I hope you will come back real soon. That's friend to friend, not institution to outsider. I hope you'll come back real soon. I'm glad you are here. Very personal. We want to use the I word. Standing too close. Give people space. My wife talks about, even with me, she has a bubble. She doesn't like people in that bubble. And so, and there are a lot of people like that. And so, we don't need close talkers. We don't need to know what you had for breakfast by the smell of your breath. We want a little space, particularly, when you're just getting to know somebody. Being too inquisitive, otherwise known as nosy. That goes back to the person asking, where do you live? How many kids you got? What about this? What about that? Boom, 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 boom. Don't be too inquisitive. Being pushy towards promoting Sunday school, membership, getting their phone number, whatever it is. Remember, we're just dating. Take it slow. Don't be too pushy in trying to get information or promoting other things. Don't be bodily pushy. Notice the full hands. Are their hands kind of out? Or are they very apprehensive? Look at their body language. Read that. And then match that. If they're shy people, that's not the person that you want to spend 15 minutes telling the history of the church to. Back off. Let them, if they're an introvert, I'm an introvert. If I show up in places I've never met anybody, I don't want to talk to a lot of people. A friendly hello, smile, good enough, I'm good. So again, it's that middle ground. We got to find that place. And by looking at what they do and how they are, and then mirroring that. And so you've got to be different with each person that you meet. Don't force a handshake or a hug with people you don't know. Again, if that person's kind of walking and their hands are out, then, a handshake's probably good. If they're like this, that's not a handshake person. That's certainly not a hug person. And so read them and get a feel for that. And then pointing people to a location. Have I said that before? If not, we're going to say it again. So the things that you absolutely positively need to remember if you remember nothing else. Here they are. Smile. Smile goes a long way. Smile. And then did I say no pointing? Don't point. People, take them to a spot. Don't point. All right, let me give you just a quick recap of our our welcoming system, because I want you to know what support is coming after the great job that you do. I don't want you to think, oh, well, I did all the hard work and then it's just up to them whether or not they return. We're backing up what you're doing with a lot of stuff. And so we want you to know that so you can understand the importance of your part of the system, which is the most important part. And that's the first part. Because without you and that first part, there is no second, third, fourth, fifth part. And so for a first-time guest, they're going to get the gift cup if they will come and meet the pastor. If they sign up for the text, they're going to get a text each of the next 6 Saturdays saying, excited for worship tomorrow, hope to see you there. And so that's the day before. They'll be getting some emails within that. They'll get a personal note from the pastor. And then later in the week, they'll get a package which will include some information on the church and a small booklet about Christianity and about the importance of accepting Christ and those type of things. For the second-time guest, they'll get a personal note from a different pastor Then they'll be getting the 3 Simple Rules book. It's a small book. That'll be our gift to them. They'll get that in the mail. And then they'll have an invitation to meet with a pastor. We'd love to have coffee with you. We'd love to get together and tell you more about the church, answer any questions you might have, that type of thing. And then we hope to move them eventually onto the road to membership. We're going to be having a newcomer dinner that'll be quarterly at my house as a way for them to get to know other newcomers, get to know the staff, and have it away from the church and in a nice setting. Also, we're going to be having DFUMC 101 classes. We'll be offering those each semester, and so people can come and they can learn about the church, and they can learn about our missions and our spiritual formation classes. They'll take a spiritual gifts inventory, a lot of different things that we'll do in that 3-week class. We're also expecting that there are going to be new followers, new believers. And we're setting up systems to be ready for those so that God can go ahead and trust us with those new followers and can send them to us. So if they notate on their connection card that they're accepting Christ for the first time, or if they let us know in some other way, then we will mail the Gospel of John to them. We'll give them a certificate for a really nice $40 Bible that if they bring that certificate back, then we'll give them that Bible the next week if they'll come and turn that in. We'll offer an opportunity and really encourage them to meet with the pastor. And we hope that we're going to be getting some of you folks to be mentors and saying, we've got this new believer. Can you mentor them maybe over the next 6 months or 6 weeks, however it might be? Can you help them to get rolling in the faith? Help them to get signed up for a class, to read the Bible daily, to pray, because they're going to have questions all along the way. And so we want folks to mentor them. We're not just simply saying, great, you've accepted Christ, now sit down and wait till you get to heaven. We're going to say, all right, there's a process to this. We want to help you to get engaged in the church, and we want to help to make sure that you are progressing in your faith. It's up to you. Now, this goes back to what I was saying kind of at the beginning of that. If we don't provide a wow experience, then we get in the way of what God's trying to do. And we want to do our absolute best to make sure that we give our very best. And that's really what excellence is. Excellence is not trying to match somebody else or another church that might be doing it better. Excellence is doing the absolute best that we can do. The absolute best that we can do. And we want to make sure that we create a great environment, that we have systems in place that make sure these things happen all the time, every single Sunday. And we want to make sure that God can work through us to bring people to Christ and to grow this church and to connect people, not only with Christ, but connect people with the body of Christ in the church. But you are vital. And that's why we want to make a video of this. I hope every church member will watch it, because every single person is vital in this process. Be excited to get up on Sunday morning, come to church, knowing that God's going to put people in our congregation that day, in our building that day, who need to meet Christ, who need to be a part of the body of Christ. And as we do that, we've got a great chance to be all that God called us to be. So I thank you for your dedication and your willingness, and let's help spread this so that it's happening all across the church. Thank you so much.